You like this heavy metal bumper music? There's not enough rock anymore. So anyway, Tri-City Sports, I saw the top 10 rock song. You have Weezer, of 2018, Weezer collaborating with Weird Al Yankovic. That's not the Headbangers Ball I used to know. I don't mean to sound too direction that the Tennessee Volunteers are taking these days. I also consider him one of the better journalists covering the Vols for allfortennessee.com on the Fansided Network. That's why I like to have him on. But now Caleb is originally from Memphis, but I think you can report objectively here. The Memphis-Tennessee rivalry. Look, here in East Tennessee, especially the Tri-Cities, we often say, Caleb, geographically, Canada than Memphis. That's often said. Bristol is closer to Canada than it is Memphis. Anyway, but nevertheless, looked like Tennessee-Memphis, something started up there this past week. You had, almost a fight at the end. You had Penny Hardaway pointing fingers, beating Memphis. And what did that mean to you as a former resident of Memphis?
So this is very interesting because if you had asked me this question 12 years ago, I would have given you a different answer. I'm sure people on your show know that I grew up liking Tennessee. I was living little fan fights, and to me, the peak moment of the rivalry was my freshman year at Tennessee. Was the year where Bruce Pearl made the statement, "Nobody respects us less than Memphis," and it was when Calipari took the Tigers into Knoxville, and Chris Lofton just went off and scored, I think, 34 points. Tennessee ended up winning by about 20 points, and that was my first year at Tennessee, so I just had, a blast going at all my friends from Memphis who would talk trash to me for so many years, and it was just kind of, it mattered a lot more to me in the scope of the game then, but now you have more of a connection to the Vols. The rivalry is cultural as much as it is anything, because we all know East Tennessee and West Tennessee are so totally different. But I'm not gonna lie, I culturally connect with West Tennessee and Memphis more than I do East Tennessee. It's just where I grew up. It's funny you brought up, you don't know where rock is going. I tell my friends all the time, we talk about hip-hop taking over music. There's not a city that has quietly had a bigger impact on the change in hip-hop the last 15 years than the city of Memphis.
There you go.
The sound Memphis created in the 90s, it never went mainstream. They never really had a mainstream artist in hip-hop.
I'm dead serious.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm serious. The only time I've been in Canada was for a famous rock concert called SARS Stock in Toronto, and there were 450,000 people there. And it was the Rolling Stones, AC/DC, and then Justin Timberlake was in town, so somebody said, "I know, let's have him play SARS Stock." And that just wasn't the crowd that you wanted to present Justin Timberlake to. Let me just put it that way. So,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because, I've always argued that Memphis should be the music city capital, not Nashville. I know that creates a debate, but I think I've got an arsenal of artists I could name that top Nashville. Even country music, Johnny Cash is more close to Memphis than he is Nashville when you talk about who they represent.
Elvis Presley, certainly. Yeah. Times in East Tennessee, but nevertheless. But no, I will say one thing about that game that I thought was behind the times, Memphis and Tennessee, was Penny Hardaway, and that sort of, they started it about the fight at the end, and Memphis East. You can't get away with that when you're on a national scale and coaching the Memphis Tigers, in my opinion. I've got a lot of stuff. I don't like it necessarily where high school coaches get college jobs directly, head coach to head coach. I would point to Bob Wade as a good example. Hardaway with his NBA experience. Okay, it's a little bit different. Could be like John Thompson at Georgetown. I get that. Okay. But I thought this was high school coach trying to talk to the media. And I was saying, didn't this guy, Little Penny, Chris Rock, NBA. I mean,
way you could look at that and say the Vols started that fight. It was blatantly clear the benches didn't clear. My only thing is maybe Hardaway was used to, the last time he was on the national stage, YouTube wasn't a thing yet, so not all the highlights were captured, so you can maybe get away with seeing a few more things, even at the NBA level, than that you can now. But you're right, that was very questionable. It does show partially Hardaway's inexperience being a high school coach. I still think it was actually the right hire, mainly just because he's selling tickets, but yeah, I mean, the biggest reason they hired him, let's be honest, was because he was coaching at East when East went 10 deep with 4- and 5-star recruits, and he was going to be able to get them all to Memphis. It's the same reason Ole Miss hired David Cutcliffe, was to make sure that Eli Manning didn't go to Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, Sexton is a good example of that. What you say was going to go to Wichita State, but instead went to Memphis. Who thought George Pitts, who's now the coach at King College D2, learn the ropes there, okay. But no, and it was a time when ETSU was really subservient to Science Hill. And the program was down when you had a lot of people, college head coach. I think that there are a lot of similar lessons that Penny probably learned from playing the NBA for the Magic or whoever. So you got to remember that too. And it's a little bit.
He played under Chuck Daly for a little while.
Yeah, but he came off. Chuck Daly, good example. He came off as high school coach, trying to make that analogy, and I didn't think it was a positive one. So we'll see. I mean, I love the fact that it's Memphis this year, it's going to be Knoxville in the future, and they're even playing, thumbing the nose at Vanderbilt, as well as Middle Tennessee State or Belmont, which is now beating by playing in Nashville. But I'll ask you, could a fight like that, though, prohibit in the future this from being a yearly series?
I don't think so. This because it wasn't as much of a fight as it was jawing. If any series ever should have been prohibited for a fighting breakout, it should have been the South Carolina Clemson series after that football game in 2004.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. No, I mean, but I get it. Yeah, they didn't even go to bowl games. Yeah.
Rotation of 5 of the other Division I teams in the state and have a state of Tennessee tournament every year in Nashville at the beginning of the year or sometime in December.
I know that the ETSUs and the Belmonts and the Chattanoogas and the UT Martins would jump on that in a heartbeat. They would love that. Absolutely.
And there's always, between all those schools, there's always 2 or 3 that are NCAA tournament worthy, so it's good for the resumes of the bigger schools that are trying to build up something too. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, I in Chattanooga, trying to get people to turn on the TV to the baseball game, and they wouldn't do it. And somebody said it's a football state, and I sort of said, I'm from Tennessee, I know what the sports are here, but it seems to me that this is, basketball state. And I think one of the reasons why Tennessee doesn't produce the NFL players that some of the ball and have that as your number one if you're from Memphis.
That's a very good point. The one exception in Memphis is Orange Mound, which is where Melrose High School is. Mm-hmm. And that's always been that used back when Fulmer's heyday, that was kind of a pipeline to Tennessee. You had Cedric Wilson, Andre Lott, Mondre Dickerson. I'm missing some guys, but Melrose was always the one exception. But every other high school in the city of Memphis was basketball.
Yeah. And so anyway, we're talking to Caleb Calhoun, all for Tennessee.com. By the way, still Stanford and the Lady Vols right over the Tennessee border in East Tennessee. He's a freshman sensation at Georgetown. They're playing Appalachian State, which, if you don't know, Boone, just over the border of Tennessee, about 15 miles or so on 321. So that has some local interest as well. So I like the fact they're playing it early so you can check it out early. But, trying to determine the elite.
Oh, I think it absolutely could. I think the real story that you're seeing is there was a lot of concern about, the thing that shocked me is there was a lot of concern about Mercedes Russell and Jamie Naird leading after this year, but the guards that were all freshmen last year, I mean, you talk about making leaps from a freshman to a sophomore, and that's really showing. Avina Westbrook has scored 20-plus points in the last 3 games, and then also them leading has kind of allowed Holly to spread the floor a little more and get other people involved. Sheridan Green has had double figures in 4 of 8 games this year. Mimi Jackson, we saw what she did to Texas from 3. So I think that how much of a leap the Lady Vols took this year, and that is kind of that is going to be an interesting thing to look at. Particularly, last year they had beaten Texas. I remember they beat Texas in the non-conference schedule at home, but that was the only real team with the Pulse they had beaten. And then conference play started, and I think they lost in overtime to Texas A&M, and it just wrecked their confidence at that point. So down the stretch of the rest of the SEC season. So if they could get Stanford, that's 2, I think 3 quality wins, because I think Oklahoma State's not a bad win either for the Lady Vols. Quality wins, 4 Power 5 wins, all before the end of the season boost for a young team with a ton of talent going into the SEC season.
I'm hoping for like a 7 overtime victory, because you know who UT plays on Friday. I just sort of Freudian slip gave a little bit of a mention to, but you know what the game is on Friday, don't you? Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, who's 2-12 this year? So made the women's NIT last year, but they're missing a Johnson City native actually in Tiana Tartar, and so. South Carolina seems to be down in women's basketball, only 6-4. Mississippi State, Tennessee seem to be the team to beat and the teams to beat in the SEC. Maybe Kentucky close behind or so. But victory against Stanford, and it's like, hey, Lady Vols back. This sort of let's give that. We know Tyson Helton won't be back as the offensive coordinator. Let's get this out of the way. What's going on there? We know that Freddie Kitchens isn't going to be the OC. I always said he's not going down from the NFL. They're going to retain. Look what he's doing enough to get rid of him and decide whatever Jimmy Haslam influence there is. He's got money on the Browns. He makes money with them. With the Vols, he boosts them, So he's not going to get rid of a meal ticket. He's not going to go down to Knoxville. And if you hadn't heard, Jay Glazer reported on Sunday, that Freddie Kitchens was guaranteed to stay as the offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. But okay, so they're not waiting for Freddie Kitchens and the NFL season to end. What do you think's going to happen here?
So they're not waiting for Freddie Kitchens. They still could be waiting for NFL guys, because there might be a chance that Jim Bob Cooter or Steve Sarkisian get fired.
Yeah, I've thought about that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know even if he would. You don't know if Steve Sarkisian is one of those guys where they scored 41 points against Clemson in that national title game. But I think he had a big role in. I think he made a lot of mistakes in that game, calling that game a couple of years ago, which was his last college game as an offensive coordinator. But I think I've trimmed it down to I trim it down to 2 things. If they can't get the Kendall Brown hire, which I've been high on from the start,
yeah.
There is reason for suspicion, and it could be just like Hugh Freeze. It could what some people were saying with Hugh Freeze, even though you might be right that he might have just preferred a head coaching job. Players at UT don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah.
And the blocking a hire. My dark horse. I wrote it last week.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers he put up as an NAIA head coach last year, and I know it's NAIA, but. He has the same players everybody else does. If you can coach, you can coach.
No, I mean, look what Hal Mummy did with Tim Couch back in the day. I mean, it can happen. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the NAIA also, because it doesn't have quite the restrictions that the NCAA does, there's a little bit more of an open, we can try NAIA that maybe you don't have in the NCAA. Just that nobody sees it in the NAIA. That's the only problem. There's a reason why Carson Newman is not playing at that level these days and at the D2 level and such. The only thing with Levy, there is a question of, wouldn't it have happened by now if it was Levy? Because you're talking about, assistant at Central Florida. Is he really going to, I have to stay at Central Florida, I can't go to the SEC? Would it really be something like that? I heard Josh Heupel and his coaching candidate. Look what he did with Drew Lock. UCF is undefeated. The NFL wants coaches that know the passing game. So I have heard that he's sort of a dark horse candidate depending on how many jobs come open in the NFL. I mean, the Bills have a new quarterback. You know what I'm trying to say here. So in that's a case, you could see maybe Levy waiting for the UCF head coaching job, going with Josh Heupel of that possibly. But yeah, I like your idea there. I do. It's certainly. That's the only thing I can suggest that wouldn't happen. But
my guess was Les trying to see if they could shoot higher first and taking a chance. And obviously Hugh Freeze would have worked out, and Kendall Browse may not work out. And maybe Jerry Pruitt thought that he could use his friendship over Freddie Kitchens, but I'm with you. He's not leaving Cleveland. So my guess is maybe they tried all that, and they're like, okay, if it doesn't work, we'll wait till after signing day and go get Jeff Levy.
I could see also the Jim Bob Cooter thing. The question would be if he would prefer to be coordinator, could probably get a position coach position in the NFL, or would he rather come back to Tennessee? And Tennessee would likely pay him a lot. They made him but they paid Helton $1.2 million. Unless they're going to pinch pennies, why wouldn't they do that? But yeah, and that would make sense. He's, former backup Tennessee quarterback, coming home and all that. I could kind of see that, but we'll have to wait and see. We hear this, hey, that consultant that used Rush Probst, he's not playing anymore, and they get along pretty well. He gave Jeremy Pruitt his job. Do you think any of these out of the box, Trooper Taylor could still come in, Randy Sanders, do you think there's any chance of those things happening?
I think Acevad, the quality control coach, is the one out-of-the-box chance. If Will Friend was going to be hired, Jerry Pruitt would have promoted him by now, I'm pretty sure. Who are the...
Sanders, to a high school coach to be the offensive coordinator. If they rioted on the campus when, Lane Kiffin went to Southern California, what are you going to do now if you bring in a high school coach as the offensive coordinator? I can't imagine that, but...
Yeah, I agree. I think that I don't even go for West Bucks either. So I think it's, I've seen different hot boards updated. I think we are seeing, I think Kendall Browse is still in play, but I fight going on with the power players with that one. I think at that point, Jeff Levy is my top choice. And those would be my top two. And both came from Baylor, worked under Art Briles. For whatever flaws he has, his offensive system is clearly cutting edge. He will still have not yet figured it out in college football.
It's just like you said, do they want to go with someone with baggage, especially after, no, we can't. Allegation, and here more serious. OC, not naming him might help, but if you're going to have a real good one, it's not going to help you if you don't name him right now. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do agree because I believe Vols Twitter, because then Dan Harrelson of Vols Wire reported on Sunday that an insider is saying, no, there's no movement, they haven't found their guy yet for whatever reason. And so, again, conflicting reports. This is, I honestly don't know of a sports team that has more false. I've never seen this before.
I think that it's getting very similar to the head coaching hire. I think that a lot of people have turned him down. I honestly think Tennessee is shot too high on some hires. I mean, you had to know, look, if Loxley gets a job, Enos is going to be, you had to know things like that, and the idea that you could, maybe people in the stand does, but you think you could just push that by after what happened with Greg Schiano. I mean, you got to be the most naive guy in the world if, or Hugh Freeze rather would be at Liberty because of his Christian background, and they're very forgiving and all that good stuff. And I think Liberty is a program on the rise. I really do. I think they could be pretty good in 10 years.
You can't make up this stuff that Hugh Freeze is like, he cut his teeth coaching the Christian high school, and now he's coaching it. Hired, by the way, by the guy who sexual assault.
Yeah, I know. It's, all this. But no, I talk about how far Liberty has gone. You may, ETSU in 1985, their last winless season, 0-10-1. The one tie was against Liberty. Let's see where they've gone since then and where ETSU has been. I mean, that's, kind of telling right there. Anyway, I am right. Quarte Sapp, leaving for the NFL. Tell you the truth, how much did he reap? Much of a loss? I'm a little surprised. Is Sapp really going to be, a great NFL player? Well, we'll have to go wait and see, I guess. But I'm certainly skeptical on this. But early signing comes in tomorrow. Any thoughts on recruiting? I think they're going to bring in, it looks like, some pretty good offensive linemen. But other than that, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the early signing period? Caleb Calhoun of all.
I think they're going to bring in, I think their big splash is going to be offensive line, Smith's future, and things like that. And they do have, I think that's okay offensively because there's a lot of skill talent returning on the offense when you look at the receivers and Ty Chandler. The question is, can they reload their defensive line? Because early projections in the next year, they lost everybody up front, and they got to find replacements immediately.
He's Caleb Calhoun. It's all for Tennessee.com, and you're missing out if you don't read it in the off season.